President Biden traveled to Africa this week. Unfortunately, he said it was to visit the birthplace of his friend Barack.
Hey, that's actually funny. That's a funny joke. I can't believe that. How did that happen? Who let that one slip through? Because, you know, it was the Democrats that started that whole Born in Africa thing. It was the Mr. Climate Al Gore started that whole thing. Ba-da-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum-bum. Now the Democrats are after Tulsi Gabbard. She was a Democrat member of the House of Representatives, member of Congress in good standing until she wasn't. And now they're out to lynch her. They are the party of lynching. And she's got the intelligence community, which has been weaponized by the fascist left in the United States of America. Pretty remarkable stuff. But before I get to that lynching, and it's reminiscent of the felonious 51 criminals in the intelligence community that tampered in and corrupted our 2020 election, led by penitentiary-faced John Brennan, and, of course, by our current Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. With his multi-million-dollar mansion over by the Saudi ambassador's residence. And they had the protesters over there for weeks on end camped in his front yard because they love Hamas, because the Democrat Party teaches that. Isn't that amazing? But before I get into Tulsi Gabbard and the new lynch mob, let me get back to President Trump speaking with the notorious Kristen Welker at NBC Fake News. Oh, but what about, are you going to leave NATO? No, I don't leave NATO. I mean, they're so corrupt. She's a filthy corruptnik. Filthy and corrupt. There is no amount of scrubbing that could scrub the filthy off of her. Here's Kristen Welker talking to President Trump. It aired yesterday on NBC on their fake news program, Face the Meat, as it's called. And are you going to fire Christopher Wray as FBI director? But you made him FBI director. You can't fire him. He's got 3 more years in his 10-year term that the Democrats came up with so they could keep J. Edgar Hoover in there decades ago. And here's Kristen Welker and President Trump.
Sir, are you going to fire the current FBI director, Christopher Wray, who you appointed?
Heck yeah.
Well, I can't say I'm thrilled with him. He invaded my home. I'm suing the country over it. He invaded Mar-a-Lago. I'm very unhappy with the things he's done. And crime is at an all-time high. Migrants are pouring into the country that are from prisons and from mental institutions, as we've discussed. I can't say I'm thrilled. I don't want to be Joe Biden and give you an answer and then do the exact opposite.
We're going to talk about
so
that.
I'm not going to do that.
So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to promise you that I'm not going to pardon my son, Hunter Biden, and then pardon my son, Hunter Biden. And are you going to fire Christopher Wray? And he didn't say, yes, I'm going to fire him. He said, I can't say I'm thrilled with him. And, you know, he invaded my house, Mar-a-Lago. The FBI staged photographs, brought their own classified document cover sheets. The FBI agents, operatives, placed those top-secret classified cover sheets on top of the stacks of papers that the FBI put on the floor and laid out, and they brought their own classified cover sheets and put them on there and photographed them and leaked them to the media. And, yeah, he's a lion Sacagawea, and he's a sneering, smugnik of the First Order. And lefties love to say, oh, he's a Republican. I don't care whether he's a Republican or not. That couldn't be more irrelevant in this, to whether he even is. And he doesn't show any signs of being an actual Republican, but never mind that. Are you going to fire him? And President Trump gives, I think, a good answer. I think President Trump has political skills now that he did not possess even 4 years ago when he was running for re-election, because he didn't come from the political world. He came from the business world and the entertainment world. NBC gave him a big national television show. It was a huge hit. Oprah loved him. The View loved him. They all loved late night TV, loved him. And then he said, oh, did I mention I'm running for president as a Republican? And then sharpening their claws ever since. President Trump with the fraudulent non-journalist Kristen Welker. You said you're going to punish your political enemies. I went searching for that yesterday on the internet, and they keep saying that. The left-wing radical extremist Lion Sachs of Judea, they keep saying that. And I went looking about him saying and the people around him saying, oh, we're going to punish our political enemies. We're going to target our political. It's the news media. It is at least 98% news media fabricated language. And if you go look, I've been asking now for quite some time here, if President Trump has said all of this about targeting his political enemies, knowing that he has been targeted by the Democrat Party because he is their political enemy, by the FBI, by the Justice Department, by prosecutors in Atlanta and in New York and in Washington, D.C., and the creation of a special counsel, a special prosecutor. And what is it? He was found guilty of, again, 34 felony counts for what? A non-disclosure agreement, which every news organization has dozens of. But never mind that. So here is the fake journalist Kristen Welker again. Aren't you going to and I keep saying, if he said this, why don't they run the videotape of him saying that and then ask him to respond to that? Why don't they run the videotape of him saying that and then ask pundits to respond to that? Why don't they run the videotape and ask Republican senators to respond to that? Here he is saying he's going to target his political enemies. Here's the videotape. But they don't have the videotape because they're making almost all of it up. And there's never a direct quote, never a complete sentence. It's usually one word in parentheses, right? Or in quotation marks, rather. And that's what the news media does. He says, you know, like he said the word revenge once, but he was talking about North Korea or something. And they put the word revenge in quotation marks. Trump said he would take revenge in quotation marks on his political enemies, but those are all their words, not Trump's words. It's a remarkable thing to see. Here's the fraudulent Kristen Welker.
I want to ask you, sir, one final question.
Sure.
What do you want to say to Americans who didn't support you in this campaign?
I'm going to treat you every bit as well as I have treated the greatest MAGA supporters. There's never been anything like MAGA in the history of this country. These people are so dedicated to making America great again. It's very simple. And I'm going to treat them just the same as I treat MAGA. We're going to treat everybody good. We want success for our country. We want safety for our country.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Success for our country. But you know, the Washington Post today, in their new election denialists, people on the left think another Trump term is too difficult to accept, so they're choosing not to. That's remarkable stuff. And they're attacking those radical MAGA, like the QAnon-obsessed insurrectionists, the Washington Post says today, who came before them because MAGA, that terrible MAGA thing. And also these lunatics in the Washington Post have Democrats wondering whether Elon Musk stole the election by using his Starlink satellites to tamper with the votes. And that's in the Washington Post today. They're mental. They're mental dwarves. Honestly. Can you say dwarves, or do you have to say mental little people? Is that mental little people? We represent the Lollipop Guild. The lollipops are laced with fentanyl, so things are a little different now. Isn't that amazing? And President Trump talking about what Joe Biden has done to the United States of America. Again, when President Trump left office and Joe Biden came in, there was no war in the Middle East. In fact, we had just cobbled together 3 peace deals between Israel and Arab nations, and they were on the brink then of establishing a peace deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Saudi Arabia, the custodians of the 2 holy mosques at Mecca and Medina, and that was going to be a big deal. But instead, all-out war on all fronts, and then war in Europe, because Putin wasn't invading Ukraine when Trump was in the White House. And here's Trump with Kristen Welker yesterday on Face the Meat.
Our reputation is so bad, so shot. I got to bring it back, and I also have to bring back civilization to our country. Our country is a crime pot, and we have to get rid of crime. We have so many things to do. We have to do the prices. We have to do all of that. But we have to get the criminals out of our country. We have to bring down crime. People have to be able to walk across the street and buy a loaf of bread without being shot. And that's going to happen. But what I say to them is, I love you, and we're going to all work together. And we're going to bring it together. And you know what's going to bring it together? Success.
You know what's going to bring it together? Success. And he talked about economic success, success in foreign policy, and making America great again, which the Democrats are absolutely hostile to. They're very hostile to the very idea of make America great again. It was never great. It can never be great. We're not going to let it be. And they get in the way of everything. They're self-immolating suicide bombers, a Jonestown death cult called the Democrat Party. All right, with that, let's go back to the telephones, Michael. And there's more. I'm still going to get to Tulsi Gabbard and more because the hit squad, the Democrats are assembling another hit squad to go after their political enemies. And they're using the permanent bureaucracy to do it. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Phil calling from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Philip, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Mr. Plant. We appreciate you skewering these Democrats. Look, Mr. President Trump not answering that question about whether he's going to fire Christopher Wray or not, I really appreciate that he wasn't specific. It's nobody's business but his, and they were just looking for attack points. That's all they're doing. All these people work for the Democrat Party. They're looking for attack points to attack everything he does. They're attacking all of his choices. I'm so sick of this. We need to get those choices approved. They're his choices to make. You know, it's not about – it's ridiculous the way they're attacking his choices in Congress, you know, for his cabinet. So I appreciate what President Trump did there by being vague. It's his decision, and I can't wait for the first day of President Trump in office. Man, bring it on.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I agree with you on the answer regarding Christopher Wray, too. And it is none of their business. And you're absolutely right. It's the news media doing the probing attacks of the Democrat Party, doing their bidding for them. Quite remarkable. It's why I like to refer to them correctly and accurately, Phil, as the most corrupt institution in America.
You are right on point, Mr. Plant, always. And God bless you.
Thank you, Phil. God bless you. And the fact is, the proper function of our republic depends very much on an honest fourth estate, on a free and fair press that the geniuses that started our great country understood would be key in our system of checks and balances. Absolutely essential that we have a free and fair press, not just free to be unfair, but free and fair press. And I've got Tulsi Gabbard coming up. Nearly 100 former national security officials alarmed. Wait till we get this. It's another hit job by criminals who really should be at Gitmo or in a gulag somewhere. We're going to have to build some rail spurs, aren't we? Rail spurs, boxcars, have to do that whole thing, I think. You know, this Christmas, as we celebrate the gift of life, a very special and particular life, you have an opportunity to share that same gift with a mother and her baby. Imagine a young woman with child facing an unplanned pregnancy, feeling alone and unsure as to what to do, searching for hope. And that's where Preborn Ministries come in. What a wonderful organization. When Valeria found out she was pregnant, she was beyond terrified. Not what she wanted. She had often dreamt of being a young mom, but she now felt overwhelmed and felt ashamed and was seriously considering abortion. Valeria began the search for an abortion, and it was while engaged in that search that she called a nurse at a preborn network clinic who walked her through her options, including, the true reality of choice. One choice is ending your baby's life with the abortion pill. That's one option. And then when she heard that, she knew she couldn't end her unborn child's life. Valeria chose life. And now she has a beautiful little girl that she's raising and loves very much. This Christmas, for just $28, you can help save a life. And thanks to a special matching grant, your gift will be doubled by Preborn. To donate to Preborn, all you have to do is dial pound 250, and the keyword is baby. Dial pound 250, and the keyword is baby when you're prompted. Or you can go to the internet and preborn.com/plant. That's preborn.com/PLANTE. Christmas time, save a life. With child. There once was a woman with child. Remember that. Amazing stuff. I've got the Tulsi Gabbard hit job coming right up. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Now, I talked a little bit earlier about the IRS being sued by Tea Party groups and by patriot groups because the IRS was used and abused by the fascists in the fascist Obama-Biden administration. They used the IRS to target and sideline their political enemies, and they knew they were political enemies because they had the word patriot in the name of their organization. And that's enough right there, because no Democrat would ever call himself a patriot while they're burning the country to the ground. But the Tea Party groups and the patriot groups were awarded millions of dollars because they were targeted and abused by the Obama-Biden IRS, right? And then we've had the FBI targeting President Trump and everybody around President Trump, and Steve Bannon and George Papadopoulos and Peter Navarro, and the list is long, right? And then we had the 51 so-called intelligence operatives, John Brennan and all that, prompted by Antony Blinken, who was then with the Biden campaign, who lied to us all about the Hunter Biden laptop, lying that it had all the earmarks of Russian disinformation. Then all the headlines were intelligence officials say it is Russian disinformation. They erased all the earmarks part, right? And now here's NBC fake news with a picture of Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democrat member of the House of Representatives, and still a Army Reserve lieutenant colonel. She actually did go to a combat zone, unlike Tim Walz. Now, also, it turns out Tim Walz was a friend of the CEO that was assassinated in New York. Did you know that? That's pretty weird. But here's the new headline. Nearly 100 former national security officials, quote, alarmed, end quote, at prospect of Gabbard leading intel community. Well, you guys don't actually get to decide. You're not in charge, you bunch of fascists. Nearly 100 national security officials signed a letter criticizing President-elect Donald Trump's decision. Sure. Soul Finger. By the Barkays, as any child of 6 will tell you. All right, big breaking news. Right now, in New York City, Daniel Penny, the former Marine that restrained a crazy, mentally ill, drug-addicted Democrat who was threatening people on an underground subway train in New York, has been found not guilty. Daniel Penny was acquitted on the more serious manslaughter charge last week. And I guess that was Friday. And today, just moments ago, the jury came back and he's been acquitted of negligent homicide in the case, a terrible story, a sick man who shouldn't have been left to his own devices to roam the streets and sidewalks of New York City and threaten people. But now he's been acquitted on the charge of criminally negligent homicide. And I believe that means that he's going to go free now. And there is a mob outside threatening violence because Democrats are all criminals. You think that would be fair to say? I think that's more or less fair to say. When Daniel Penny was being escorted in with his phalanx of security and lawyers today, he's not some billionaire. He was a former Marine riding the subway, a young guy, and the crazy person was threatening everybody and terrorizing everybody. He tried to restrain him, and when the police got there, the crazy person was still breathing and was alive, and he did die a short time later, and there's some debate as to what the actual cause of death was, as to whether it had directly to do with the chokehold, the restraining move. But Daniel Penny seen smiling after not guilty verdict. And there is a mob outside of radical left-wing racists who are racist, and they have bullhorns and pictures made in professional, signs on sticks with pictures made in professional print shops, union jobs. And they're now threatening the city, the mob of lunatics. They might have to steal a bunch of stuff. You know how they are. Anytime they're upset by things, they feel better after they steal a lot of things, usually looting drugstores and clothing stores and Loot Lemon and the Louis Vuitton stores. And they love looting. They love burning police cars and attacking the police and attacking police stations. And now they're chanting, no justice, no peace. And, to hell with the jury, they get to decide what justice is in every case because they're that arrogant and demented and mentally ill. And speaking of which, we had over the weekend, I was texting Michael Piercy, and one of the radical left-wing extremist Black Lives Matter racists, who is a total racist, and we've talked about his being racist before. His name is Hawk Newsom, or he goes by the name Hawk Newsom. He might have an actual first name, but who knows? He's a left-winger, so they make up everything, including their names. And here's the radical racist Black Lives Matter New York chapter founder, Hawk Newsom, saying on Friday or Saturday that if you think Daniel Penny is not guilty, then you're obviously a racist, coming from a dedicated, devout racist named Hawk Newsom.
Racism is still alive and kicking in America.
And you're it.
There's no other way to view this. Everyone has looked at the case.
Everyone.
And those among you who say that Daniel Penny is innocent have racism and bias in your heart.
You're a racist. How about that? Now the conversation's off to the races, right? No, maybe Hawk Newsom, maybe that's not the answer to every question that you've ever considered, however briefly. But, these guys, they love racism more than normal people dislike racism. But that's it. And now they're chanting no justice, no peace, and threats issued after already the threats are rolling in, after the jury finds Daniel Penny not guilty. Isn't that amazing? And the threats are rolling in because that's your Democrat Party. The Fox News people reporting on that. But that's big, huge news. I mean, honestly, if they'd found him guilty of anything, I was going to have to come on the radio and say, everybody should agree to never go to New York again for the rest of your lives, because it's a hellhole where, thieves and killers run free and good men die like dogs. Honestly, the Democrat Party ruins everything they touch because they're not liberals. They're the left. But they might be arranging for tour groups to go to Jonestown in Guyana soon to go visit some of their forebears. That could be a lot of fun for everybody, I think. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. Now, I was when all of this was popping, I was just in the middle of the Tulsi Gabbard story, because NBC Fake News has the headline, nearly 100 former national security officials alarmed at prospect of Gabbard leading intel community. Director of National Intelligence, DNI, U.S. Army military officer, member of Congress, now former member of Congress, Democrat member of Congress. And the Democrats are out to get her, like they're out to get Daniel Penny, whose life is now in danger because violent criminal Democrats are threatening his life. But here's NBC Fake News. Nearly 100 former national security officials, sure they are, signed a letter criticizing President-elect Donald Trump's, you should just stop right there, decision to nominate former Representative Tulsi Gabbard, they don't mention that she's a Democrat, was a Democrat, for Director of National Intelligence, DNI. It's a position that shouldn't have been created after September 11th. The Director of CIA is the Director of National Intelligence and was before all of this came about, and called for closed-door Senate hearings to review any government information about her. Closed door, not yet, once again, freezing the American people out. So whoever these 100 fascists are that are looking to set up and lynch Tulsi Gabbard, just know that they're the Nazis in this conversation. They're the fascists in this conversation. Tulsi Gabbard, I'm sorry, shouldn't the U.S. Army have thrown her out as a lieutenant colonel who served in combat zones and a member of the House of Representatives with a security clearance, maybe 2 security clearances, and maybe the Army and the Congress should have taken these things up. Well, she's an Army officer to this day and a former member of the House of Representatives. And you guys didn't kick her out then. Why not? Why didn't the Army kick her out? And you know what the Democrats, Hillary Clinton said that she's a Russian operative, right? Hillary Clinton said that because Hillary Clinton is, I'll try to keep it clean, a Russian operative. It's might as well call her a Russian. It's the old Russian playbook. In the letter obtained by NBC News, meaning handed to NBC News by the left-wing hacks that are doing this, the officials urged the Senate to carefully evaluate whether Gabbard is equipped for the position, which requires Senate confirmation. Several of Ms. Gabbard's past actions call into question her ability to deliver unbiased intelligence briefings to the president. Now, wait a minute. You mean Donald Trump is nominating her and he shouldn't believe her because you 100 anonymous frauds and hacks and criminals have decided that there might be some past issues like Joe Biden's past issues, but never mind that, racists. Unbiased intelligence briefings to the president, Congress, and the entire national security apparatus. Maybe her briefings will be biased? Is that what you're trying to say here? The letter says, following her trip to Syria, for example, Ms. Gabbard aligned herself with Russian and Syrian officials. Now, explain to me, you hurl that subject, you say that she aligned herself with Russian and Syrian officials. Now, on the other side of the discussion in Syria, you've got ISIS and Al-Qaeda and affiliated death cult organizations, genocidal death cult organizations. And you say that she aligned herself, but you don't say how. Well, that would have to come out in closed-door hearings in the Senate. All right, you're Lavrenti Beria of the KGB, all right? The former officials also, who are anonymous, also proposed closed-door hearings that would allow lawmakers to fully review any government files on Gabbard, which they can do anyway, and then go have not closed-door hearings, but open hearings on TV. But never mind that, where the American people can see what you criminals are up to. A former Democrat House member from Hawaii is Tulsi Gabbard. Senate committees should consider in closed session all information available to the U.S. government. Now, you do that before you go into the open hearings. And then you say what you can say, and you don't say what you can't say. But if there is incriminating data, then we all deserve to know it, because she was a Democrat member of the House of Representatives. So based on that and that alone, she might be a criminal. Let's look at her insider trading practices, like Nancy Pelosi. But never mind that. Senate committees should consider in closed session all information available to the U.S. government when considering Ms. Gabbard's qualifications to manage our country's intelligence agencies. And more importantly, the protection of our intelligence sources and methods. This is just a lie. I covered the intelligence community for 10 years, every day for 10 years, while my office was in the Pentagon. These people that sign on to these letters should be gassed. just tear gas, and pepper spray, things like that. But they should be gassed, not Zyklon B. Yet. Honestly, isn't this amazing? The letter's signers include Wendy Sherman. Wendy Sherman, wasn't she like in the Partridge Family or something? Former Deputy Secretary of State in the Biden administration, Ian Kelly, who was ambassador to Georgia during the Obama administration. Isn't that a state? I didn't know we had I kid. There's Georgia, the country, too. The Obama and Trump administrations, and Eric Green, a member of the National Security Council during the Biden administration. All right, and they used Trump's name for no reason at all, because he was ambassador to Georgia in the Obama administration and stayed over in the Trump administration, because who are you going to make ambassador to Georgia? Poor sucker's already got the job. Just let him keep it. So a member of the National Security Council. So you got a Biden guy, an Obama guy, a Biden-Obama guy, and then a guy who was ambassador to Georgia who stayed over in the Trump administration but is not a Trump guy. Gabbard has previously faced criticism for sympathetic comments about U.S. adversaries. Well, she's a lifelong Democrat. You guys love our enemies. Days after Russia invaded Ukraine, Gabbard called for Ukraine to be a neutral country, urging people to embrace the spirit of aloha. Now, this is what they put in quotation marks. And they've got in quotation marks, neutral country, and that's it. That's not a complete thought, isn't it? Is it? No, it's not. And then embrace the spirit of aloha. She was probably talking about surfboards. And, I think we should all embrace the spirit of aloha. But the Islamists are not likely to do that anytime soon. In 2017, Gabbard made an unannounced trip to Syria to meet President Bashar al-Assad, the country's authoritarian leader. The trip sparked bipartisan criticism. The same year, she cast doubt on the U.S.'s own intelligence agency's conclusion that Assad's government was responsible for a chemical weapons attack on Syrians. Of course they were. Don't be ridiculous. That's just insane. And now, so here comes... and they name a few of them here, of the nearly 100 that signed the letter. But just amazing. The letter was addressed to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who won't be Majority Leader for long, and incoming Majority Leader John Thune of South Dakota. This is just another abuse of government position and titles by people on the left targeting their political enemies and abusing their political position to do all of that. Remember the 51 that signed of so-called intelligence officials, penitentiary face Brennan, the communist, John Brennan, appointed CIA director by the President Barack Obama, who was mentored by a communist, Frank Marshall Davis. And here they come again, this time for Tulsi Gabbard. Now, I don't feel strongly about Tulsi Gabbard one way or the other, but I can tell you the people that signed onto this letter are more likely to be criminals than is Tulsi Gabbard. I'll tell you that much right now. Let me tell you this. I'm telling you. Wah, wah, wah. They go after them one at a time. Matt Gaetz, Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard. They're a lynch mob. And keep in mind, the Democrat Party is the party of the bullwhip and the plantation and the Confederate States of America. And they're the party of the Klan and of lynching. Keep that in mind. And they are the party of the bullwhip. And I'm not just talking about Robert Mapplethorpe now.
I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary. She's the favorite of the Russians. Yeah, she's a Russian asset. I mean, totally.
Now, are the Democrats going to riot today? They've got a bunch of racists outside of the courthouse in New York. This is not the same one where the guy self-immolated, though, is it? During the Donald Trump trial when a Democrat set himself on fire and killed himself. A lot of Democrats are doing that now. Kind of little Jonestowns all over the place. But Daniel Penny on Friday the judge in the case on Friday, Judge Maxwell Wiley, Maxwell Silvergavel, as he's called. Do you think he has a silver gavel on the bench there? I think he should. Judge Maxwell Wiley on Friday agreed to the prosecution's request to dismiss the most serious charge of second-degree manslaughter after jurors twice told the court that they had deadlocked on the issue and couldn't come to unanimous decision. And they had previously instructed to deliberate the lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide if they found Perry not guilty of manslaughter. And today they came back in, the jury did, and pretty quickly, I've got to say, lickety-split, not guilty verdict. And it's not a hung jury this time. On Friday, it was a hung jury on the first charge. And today, not guilty, that means a unanimous jury, not guilty in the Daniel Penny case. And so you have the Hawk Newsoms of the world bringing Eric Garner's mother out in front of the courthouse to yell and get a hairdo. And that's the big deal. And they're fanning the flames of racial conflict because they are still the Democrat Party. And again, Hillary Clinton accusing Tulsi Gabbard of being a Russian asset. That's when Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat member of the House of Representatives that Hillary said that. And the Democrat Party is demented and sick and violent. And Daniel Penny is not the villain of the story here. But the city that they're making in New York is a city that no one would want to live in and that no one would want to visit. So Penny was cleared of criminally negligent homicide in Jordan Neely's death. The more serious manslaughter charge was dismissed on Friday because of a deadlocked jury, a hung jury. This is a big deal. And now are the Democrats going to organize mob violence as they so very often do? Are they going to loot, which they're very fond of doing, attacking businesses in New York? All business should leave New York. And every Democrat should be voted out of office. Just saying. But, I don't know. I've met Tulsi Gabbard once, had a nice talk with her. I have no reason to believe she's a Russian asset just because Democrats say that she is, knowing that they lie about pretty much everything. Aren't they amazing? Yes, sir. And, boy, I didn't even get to CNN today. Dana Bash, whose ex-husband signed on to that felonious 51 letter, pretending to be an intelligence official, lying about Hunter Biden's laptop. But, yeah, they've got a story that the CEO in New York hired a hitman to have him killed. It was like a hitman suicide.